Okay, so I got caught up in a thought slash concept. This is the steering column, and this is the where the park reverse neutral drive will go. This is we printed this some time ago. That'll go in behind there. Okay, and it'll come up flush. The way the dash is made, TIG welded a piece in, and there's a reveal back there where that will be cut out to fit in. So now, in working with the upholsterer, we've decided that we're certainly going to upholster this dash. Whether I do it, he does it, whatever. So, I'll finish making sure this is all totally flat and all that stuff. Get some surfacer on it. I love surfacer. But then that vinyl is going to be right there. We're not going to fold it around. I mean, it'll be all puckered and that. So we have to build a trim piece. So then I got a brain fart today. What if I could just make a die and, just stamp it out so that I could make a trim piece and then retain it by putting 2 ears on the backside. Now this is just the very beginning. Just the very beginning. The first piece was this one, and I pushed through, and I've shown you guys this before on other projects, on other items that I made, the cell phone tray for the console, all that stuff. I'm getting better at it though. I'm learning as I go. So I made this die. Just cut it out in the plasma cutter. I actually cut it out of this piece in the plasma cutter. Okay, saved this piece. Cleaned it up pretty good. But for the most part, found the kerf. Ground the edges and got her. More than 40 thousandths clearance. That's 20 gauge stainless that I'm using. Plug welded this onto the back. Located it. Stacked these so the edges were right up against each other. Right? The plasma is not going to leave a 40 thousandths variation, maybe 1 or 2 thousandths when you cut 2 pieces, but that's enough for this type of work. And then put that piece of stainless in, made the sandwich, and pressed it down with the press. Okay? Nothing new. Nothing new. Let me disconnect this there. And then proceeded in kind of whittling away the inside with a cutoff wheel. And you can see that. This is some of the material that was up in there. And I still have to form. The bottom edge is still up, down here. So I got to get in there with a chisel and a punch. You can see a little bit there. But there's some deformity, I'll have to dolly it out. But this is just going to be a little piece of trim. Just a little piece of trim. I don't know how wide I'll do it. 1/4 inch, not 3/8, 1/4 inch, 3/16. Something like that where the vinyl rolls around, but then this will go in and snap it in. So just using a Dremel and a burr to take off the boogers, from the cutoff wheel, and just meticulously running around it. I've already got a profile and a shape from the front that I need to just follow. And so you can see where I've touched a little there, and I'll have to dolly that down and just kind of clean it up. So basically this piece then will sit in there. Only be, the easy part is cutting it to size, but right now I need all that material to hold it so I can size it and dolly it. And that'll house, there, that'll house that. So it'll just be a small trim piece. So thought I'd share that with you since I haven't been what do you call that? Studious on keeping up with the videos here. Things are rolling, staying very busy. Building other things for customer jobs. We got a '94. I had to put a front end on. That's getting ready. That is ready for paint, and just a smattering of things laying around the shop, small odds and ends and jobs. So just wanted to share that with you, and you'll see it in the future. Okay, not a big review, but I've got those pieces there. That was the scrap piece where I overpressed. Basically, after, cutting off the inside, I left 2 tabs on, and then took my Beverly shear, this guy, and carefully trimmed around the edges. I used a scribe. I guess I should show you that. I just used a scribe and scribed a distance off of that arc all the way around. Then I used the shear to get as close as I can to that without going over. And then I just trimmed it out, used a 36 and a 50 and an 80 and just basically worked it down. Okay. Then after that, I bent the tabs up. I could fix the piece in the vise. I could hold it in my hand, whatever, like this, facing up. And I worked from 80 to 180 to 240 to 320 to 400 to 600 to 800 to 1200 to 2000 in progressive sandpaper. And, there's an example right there of 2000. Okay, stuck it on my wheel, dipped her in the water with a little dish soap in it, and kept going. Then finally came with a polishing pad, my red rouge, and polished it off. So the end result then winds up being this guy right here. So he fits into there, and if I can get him out, there, you got the 2 tabs. I haven't done anything with the tabs, but ground it nice and flush with the surface, and then polish the piece out for the show side. It's got fingerprints on it, of course, but it is a very nice piece in the end, and it'll sit over that just perfectly. Some might say that's a lot of flipping work, but it's not. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. So this will all be upholstered. I am going to open up this just a little bit so that I can fit the upholstery through, because the dimension, you can see just a little bit of sheet metal there, but I can get it in if I push and pull it there. But I just want to relieve it so the upholstery can come to that edge and get pinched properly in there. Then those tabs, sorry, I got a piece of sheet metal in my hand there. Those tabs are right there. I'll trim them and they'll fold over that edge before the clear plastic piece goes in right there. So, fun project. So, as many of you know, if you've been watching the videos, I built this stainless steel tank with a neck, and then I purchased this threaded deal, and it's TIG welded on underneath there, and then the little cap. It was an 1.5 inch cap. That cap is now pressed into here. And what I did is I just got a piece of 3-inch aluminum and got it mostly to polish here. I got to do a little bit more rubbing on it, but I mean, and basically turned a cavity out, opened it up so it steps down about 100 thou over this about 100 thou ledge on the end here, and retained the O-ring. And because now I have a purge system or a vent system in the tank, I don't need the purge hole to smell the gas. So I just whipped this out on the lathe. And now I got my new gas cap. It's bigger. It's about the size. The seal underneath is 3-inch. And so it'll kind of tie in. But I like it. This whole YouTube thing. Making progress. So we're taking the guys here at the shop. This is Iron Customs. And he's over there right now talking to a guy about a 68 Firebird. This is an old Jeep that he's working on. There's my other interior door panels and kick panels. Getting ready to router out the pattern on the inside. 2 layers of 1/2-inch, retaining those clips that way now, right? They won't push through. If you remember from the headliner install. There's my car over there. Gonna double up the rear, and then there will be a channel routed out of this. So the garnish molding will go in and fit flush to the interior piece, because that's what I sized it for, but it'll be just set in that little depth. That'll be really cool. And then there's the headliner that I put on, or the new one, but there's the headliner to go in. And the same concept here now, so the pins don't push through. And then that'll terminate at the, that's the overhead console. And these will run, and this is just going to get a little bit of filler. It'll drift to 0, drift right in, so that 3-dimensional impression will just kind of bury back into here. The racetrack going in there. But we're just a few weeks away from bringing this back to the shop. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, moving on to other things. Had a good test and tune. I'll get back to this. Had a good test and tune on the engine. Had my son and my brother come over, and we sat and got the idle situation all clean, not completely cleaned up, but cleaned up significantly. The issue is that I need to put the transmission into gear. I need to load the wheels. There's all kinds of things. So the rest of the driving parameters and that aren't going to be as complicated as a cold startup, and then a transition to a warm startup, maintaining air fuel, good drivability, consistent idle, those kinds of things. And so that's why we spent a few hours just getting this kind of put together. I learned a lot in that experience, kind of where to start and how to map forward, because variables that you change can affect 3-4 different other variables. And so it was nice to sit and watch as my brother went through and changed, began here, opened a few graphs over there, and watched responses and made incremental changes to get to good results. And I think I have enough at this point to kind of continue forward and use him as a resource over the phone. Well, at the same time we did all that, the transmission would not go into gear. Just doing some testing, and we're going to set up the transmission controller. And you can see you probably wouldn't notice, but I mean, the wiring loom, or the covering, has been removed from it because we were testing it, the pinouts on it, and deduced that probably it's internal. So at this point, I pulled the pan off, and I'm I'm going to see if I got a linkage that came disconnected or something like that underneath. I'm just letting it drip down to that rag under there until further notice. But whilst that was going on, I took the opportunity to skim coat these, block them out, get them into surfacer, block them out again, right? Get to 320 basically on the whole thing. And then now I just shot them with their final coat. I'll block this out to probably 400. These will get the upholstery put onto them, but they're ready for that now. And I'm very happy with the results. They turned out spectacular. Quick time. This dash, for those of you that may have watched the video, this dash was folded over from about here. It didn't have the steering wheel cutout, of course, but from about here up and through and over there, it was folded. And that was just a series of hammering and intricate work to get it to kind of come back into shape. I used a pile of heat over here to shrink all this up because I had welded this shift indicator into it, and that crease went right across it. So I wanted to get everything done. Then I spent some time heating and hammering and getting that taken care of. And so at this point, that thing is flat and ready to upholster. It goes over to the shop in a couple of days. So it'll have a full cure, through tomorrow. If we get sun, right now we got tons of overcast and it's been dripping off and on. But if I get sun tomorrow, I'll set these out and help them bake out a little bit, or even this afternoon. So that's what I'm working on. Probably jump on the transmission. Got the pan sitting right here. Cleaned him all up, drained the fluid out of it, saved it, because it doesn't have any miles on it. Hey, I'm sorry guys, but I got a wild hair. Didn't video it. I just kind of went in, started yesterday, and then went in deep. And you remember I built that gas cap. And the rest of the 3-inch that I used to build another cap, extremely similar, same angle and whatever, but 2.5 inches, that's 3 inches right there. So I took some exhaust tube and plasma cut out some 12 gauge. Stock the exhaust tube 16. Plasma cut some 12 gauge rings, one on the top, one on the bottom. And then went and bought a 90-degree street. And I cut the threaded side off of the street, on the male threaded side off the street, the female side off of the street, off the other end of the street. A street is female to male on a tight 90. Cut off the 90, turned it in the lathe, and then welded it to the bottom side of this stainless here. This one I turned down. Well, you can't see it, but I turned it down. The bottom of this is the aluminum cap. I cut a interference on the turned threaded piece to the hole in the blind hole in the cap. Okay, and then pressed it in and just used blue Loctite on that. Okay, so the ring is on the top. The ring is on. Whoops, I should. Sorry, show you. If I can find it in here, right there, you can see it. That is a tube that goes all the way down. And I took a 1/4 inch hose barb, and on the 1/4 inch pipe tap threaded side, on the 1/4 inch pipe tap threaded side, the hole size was proper for an 1/8 inch tap. So 1/8 inch pipe tap. So I threaded the inside of that barb, and that would be this barb that's up in there. I threaded the inside of that to an 1/8 inch pipe tap. I took a piece of 3/8 stainless steel tubing, okay, and I threaded it to an 1/8 inch male pipe tap and then threaded it into the barb. Okay, so when I unscrew this barb, that whole tube, whose top is about right there, pulls out. Okay, the other one is just a hose barb, not threaded, that is the bottom. So then I have a vented, a fill cap that has the vent on the bottom, so it sucks and blows. And then my radiator hose now comes down into the center of the puke tank, and so that can fill or drain, and then the high tube then runs out to the ground. So it took a piece of 18 gauge stainless and then finished it to a number 4 in the lathe, number 4, which 180 grit, and then polished it. Polished the this is aluminum, polished it off to a shine, and I'm done. It does have plenty of clearance from the alternator, and it's tucked away where the hood side frame comes in here, just tucked in there kind of pretty. So it worked out for me, and I'm happy. I'm sorry I didn't take you guys with me. I jumped into it and went strong until I finished it. So just wanted to show you how I did it.